Towson, Baltimore, and WNST. Around here, I will be in Toronto, next week, stalking Geddy Lee and probably watching a little hockey. Strangest thing is that the Red Sox will be in Toronto on the off day next week, so I might get a little Red Sox Blue Jays AL East action in. She gets all the action that there is up there in Boston. Championships in January, playoffs in April, and obviously World Series hopes from now through the end of the year. The Red Sox entertaining the Orioles. She does all things sports television as well as that on the web at csnne.com. And you know her work through Major League Baseball as well. We welcome Trenny Kusneric back onto the program. Trenny, I got to tell you, I am incredibly jealous of your Twitter handle, at Trenny. I mean, I have a name like Nestor, and you would figure that I could get my first name, but there's like a whole load of Nestors around the world that I was completely unaware of as a child. Are there other Trennys?
There are other Trennys, and they come out of the woodwork when they find out that your name is Trenny. But every once in a while, on the rare times that I search my name on Twitter to make sure no one's threatening to kill me this week, it comes up, and I think it's either Czechoslovakia or some sort of Eastern European country, and it means workout.
Wow. Okay.
It means work out in some other Eastern European country. So I will see it come up. Thankfully, it's not mentioned all that often in negative terms. But a lot of times it'll come up in some weird foreign language that I can't even understand. And I'm like, I wonder what it means, and it means workout.
You got to get one of those gifs for your Twitter that says "I work out," like from the video. That'd be kind of good.
Yes. And then see if it goes viral in Prague.
Wouldn't that be something? I mean, it is a small world after all. Nestor Kirchner was the president of Argentina. So when you're looking for Nestors, I am not even in the top 1 million of, on the search, But there are some great, he died of cancer, and there's some great graffiti on the walls in Buenos Aires that says Nestor Vive, which means Nestor lives. So I've stolen that one. So if you get a Trenny lives in Czechoslovakia, or in some weird Russian, Lithuanian thing, you should use that.
I don't know, but I'm certainly going to try now that I know things like that exist.
Well, she is at Trenny. That's Trenni. She's up in Boston doing all things Red Sox. And hey, I thought the Caps were going to play the Bruins for about 5 minutes, but the Leafs stunk just enough on Sunday night to send me north of the border. I don't know what I would have done in 4 days in Boston, but I'm sure baseball would have been on the agenda. And for right now, the Red Sox were, come with all of this. We're going to win 100 games. We're going to be the favorites. Indians aside, and I'm sure Tito and those guys will have some things to say about that out in Cleveland before it's all over with, but there are really high expectations on the Red Sox for the first time in a couple of years, I think.
Yeah, I would say there were really high expectations on this team last year after the acquisition of David Price and it being, David Ortiz's final season last year. But the minute they acquired and traded for Chris Sale, expectations went through the roof because on paper, and this is the most important part of this point, on paper this winter, they looked like I would say maybe even better than the Indians just because you had David Price and Chris Sale at the top of your rotation. And even though you lost David Ortiz, you had a healthy, slimmed down, resurgent, rededicated. It's a lot of Reeves, Pablo Sandoval coming back. You had Mookie Betts, just a little bit older. Xander Bogaerts, Andrew Benintendi making his first full season. And then then things start to happen and guys start to get hurt. The next thing you know, you're like, well, let's temper those expectations a little bit.
Well, you think the flu's only going to last a week, and when you talk about the biggest story for me is retire. I mean, this is the first time we're going to see the Red Sox without David Ortiz, and despite hobbling around on bad wheels and, hitting 40 home runs and hitting 300, I think that leadership and the straw that stirs the drink and the one guy that sort of connects the Pedros and the Schillings and the first round to the current round in Boston Strong, when you eliminate a guy of that magnitude, whether in Baltimore it was Cal Ripken or even Ray Lewis and Ed Reed, it's incredibly hard to replace those generational kind of guys. Certainly the Red Sox, it feels like they have enough young talent to do that, but they're going to miss David Ortiz around there. They might miss him already.
Yeah, I mean, they're definitely going to miss him, I think, like you said, in that sort of leadership form, because you're never going to get people, the common question all spring training long when I was down there was, well, who's going to replace David Ortiz and who's going to replace David Ortiz? And the canned answer was no one can replace David Ortiz, but I don't think they were just saying it to say it. It really is true. I mean, we were even talking, I'm sure you saw the poll that came out, of the most popular athletes in the world, and in the top 50, there were not a single current baseball player. David Ortiz had this larger than life personality, and that just unfortunately doesn't happen as much in baseball. So that's hard to replace. But just in terms of like actual baseball terms, he's difficult to replace because no matter whether he was 40, 41, or if he was, 37, 38, 35, 30, he's the most feared guy in the lineup. So automatically it changes until someone else emerges as that guy that you when he steps to the plate, you think this guy can go deep at any time. This guy can hurt me at any time. It does change the way you pitch to this team and the way you pitch to this lineup.
Well, I think they believe Betts is going to be that guy, and certainly for the Orioles with Machado, those kind of players that if you look up, I would envision Mookie Betts still being a Red Sox 8 years, 10 years from now. I think he'll wind up getting paid there, but, that has to happen, and now Benintendi comes in, and, we're hearing comparisons to Fred Lynn. By the way, I remember Fred Lynn and Jim Rice and all those guys, and everyone thought in the end Fred Lynn would be the greatest player of all of those guys, and he's sort of the long-since forgotten guy, even when you're talking about Dewey Evans of that era. But in Benintendi, I think there's this incredible hope for him, but there's also this incredible pressure that comes with all the young players there, and certainly every Chris Sale and every Carl Crawford and every Panda that has ever, taken a contract from outside, they feel that pressure. I think it's unusual when the young guys come in, and it's just sort of natural to be a Red Sox because coming from the outside, that's a pressure cooker up there for a lot of guys.
Yeah, and I don't think you realize until you are a part of it. And the nice thing I think about coming up through the Red Sox system is even if you're not in that major league clubhouse and you're not in major league camp, during spring training, you still are around to see all of the people. You're around to see the amount of media. You, depending on where you're drafted, how high you're drafted, you are going to have to meet with that huge throng of media. And kind of get used to the pressure of being on a team like the Red Sox that I don't think you get in other markets. And, that's no offense to other markets. I'm from Milwaukee originally. I've worked in Pittsburgh. I've, done the whole middle America thing. So I get it, but I can say with certainty that Boston, New York, not even New York. Well, I guess to a point, but Boston is a unique market where there is a lot of pressure put on the athletes here, and everybody pays attention to sports. Unlike in New York or LA, where you've got these other,
movie stars,
major movie stars
right,
to detract your attention away. Your big stars here, even, with the likes of Ben Affleck and Matt Damon and those guys, the Wahlbergs being from this area, they're not here day in and day out. So the big attraction, the main attraction are the athletes. And that is a different kind of attention. I will say this though, Chris Sale, only 2 starts in with him, but this is a guy who I think is going to be able to handle the pressure a lot better than, you mentioned like a Carl Crawford who just could not handle it. Chris Sale to me seems like a guy who can handle it.
Sale would never cut up like a throwback Ted Williams or a throwback Yaz, would he?
Oh, 100% he would, and he wouldn't apologize for it. I think that's what's great about him. To me, Nestor, I swear to you, I think that if he came in and it didn't fit right and it made him uncomfortable and they didn't listen to him, I think he would probably do the same thing. Because, again, you come to a new team. Obviously, that's a story that's going to follow.
We will never hear that story again. That will never happen again in the history of sports, that someone will cut up all the jerseys. I mean, that is a unique act of aggression toward management. I would say that.
Yes, and I don't think that Chris Sale would have as much. First of all, I think the Red Sox probably wouldn't put him in that position after what happened in Chicago. But let's just say, for argument's sake, it does. I wouldn't put it past him doing something similar. Like he was pretty unapologetic. Now he did say he never fully came out and apologized for it, and I don't even think he said that he felt badly for doing it. It was just like hey, things happen, you learn lessons from things. But there wasn't a whole lot of yeah, I was wrong, I really shouldn't have done that. I am 99.9% certain that those words never came out of his mouth, which kind of makes him awesome.
Well, I mean, the act of insurrection to begin with, but then realizing, like, well, somebody else will just, trade for me, and they'll trade their best prospect for me, and, and I'll go somewhere. I'll get a fresh start elsewhere. I mean, he's kind of fallen into a tub of butter. He could have gotten dealt anywhere. He got dealt into a spot where, he's expected to take the ball 35 times. He's expected to win 20 games. He's expected to show up in October and pitch. Those were not expectations that they had on the south side of Chicago.
No, but I think they're expectations that he wants. Like, I think he would have been, if he would have gotten traded, to the Milwaukee Brewers instead, I think there would have been I think he would have been disappointed. I'm a Brewers fan through and through. I love that team. But, somebody tweeted at me the other day, jokingly, Gorman Thomas isn't walking through that door again. No, he's not. Neither is Robin Yount or Paul Molitor or Ben Oglivie or any of those other players that I loved growing up.
I hated every one of Harvey's wall bangers. I remember everything about the last weekend in 1982.
I almost forgot because I was so little. I was only 5. So for a hot minute, I forgot that it was Baltimore.
I've always liked you. You got to stop talking about 82 like that. I mean, that was...
I know. If it makes you feel any better, we lost the World Series to the St. Louis Cardinals, and I hate the Cardinals. From that point on, I mean, they made me. I was 5 years old, Nestor, and I cried like a baby because I was pretty much still a baby. I cried and cried and cried, and to this day, I despise the St. Louis Cardinals. I hate everything about them.
It's got to be really weird being a Brewers fan, right? Because they've given you no joy. It's kind of like being an Orioles fan. I mean, literally, there have been a couple of playoff appearances, but, we got 25 years of Camden Yards. When your baseball team sucks, it runs deep, and it runs deep almost forever. I was kind of happy to see the Cubs people finally get out from underneath of it. But you talk about expectations. With victory comes, all of that, right?
I mean, I even remember, when I was in Milwaukee in 2008 and then again in 2010 and 2011, when they were right there, the expectations are raised exponentially. The minute a fan base gets a taste of winning, they don't want to go back to how it was before. So now, fast forward to working in Boston, where teams seem to just, wake up in the morning and win championships. The expectations are so high. And that's why I say, like, when I look at Chris Sale, I think there are some people who want to cash a paycheck. They kind of want the sweet life. If they win, great. They don't want to be terrible, but if they don't go all the way, they'll still survive because they're taking home a big chunk of change. I think Chris Sale is a guy who hated the fact that he wasn't able to compete for World Series titles, and he wasn't in the running, other than save for, what was it, I think 2 years ago or 3 years ago, that the White Sox, were kind of there for a while with the Twins and the Tigers in the Central. Like, I think that he loves it. I think he was so happy to be traded to a team where the expectations were high, because I think that's something that as a competitor he craves.
She is Trenni Kusnierek. You can follow her journey out on Twitter at Trenni. That's TRENNI. She does the early edition from 6 to 8 at Comcast Sports New England. And, man, you got a lot going on there, right? I mean, you sit at the anchor desk there, whether it's the Patriots drafted in a couple of weeks and what's going to happen with Malcolm Butler, what's going to happen with Garoppolo. Then, of course, you got the Bruins and the Celtics involved.
I will be gone for that. As of April 21st, I am off to España. 2 weeks in Spain to celebrate the Big 4-0, so I don't care who they draft. I don't care what happens with anyone until May 8th when I come back.
Here's what I want you to do. I want you to dance a little bit. I want you to eat dinner at 11 o'clock at night. I want plenty of tapas. I want to make sure you're getting some.
Don't forget the most important thing, Spanish vino.
Well, of course. I mean, that goes without saying. You should start that at noon every day, whether you need to or not. That's what I would do. Yeah. But for the Boston thing, the Red Sox, it's like everybody's one-upping each other, right? I mean, the Bruins sort of claw their way into the playoffs. The Celtics are kind of banging around a little bit. But the Red Sox, all the expectations on them, at least until football season starts, and the Patriots are favored to win again. The Patriots have already had the best offseason. We haven't even entered the draft period yet.
Oh, I know. It cracked me up. Brian Clark from ESPN last week said on the air, he said, I will quit my job at ESPN if Richard Sherman goes to the Patriots. He's like, I will quit because it's game over. Like, how do you even compete with that team? It really is. It is amazing. And as a reporter working in this market, it's so fun, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. But at the same time, I fully understand why anyone in any other city would look particularly at the Patriots and just want to stick every middle finger they could find.
Well, Trini, they cheat. They cheat. That's what they do, right? I mean, I looked at the championship a couple of weeks ago. I was down in Houston for it. I mean, I know you guys were covering it, and I said, what did they do to cheat this year that we're going to find out about in 2021? Is Brady on some exotic thing that something's going on there? I just know they look to cheat, and that's the part that pisses everybody off. You're a Packer person. You understand that. You play by the rules out in the Midwest.
Listen, I totally get it, and I've been called every name in the book because I have stood by the fact, and there are many of us in this market that have stood by the fact that no matter what anybody says or the science about the ideal gas law, no, Brady ordered the code red. Now, it was probably a speeding ticket that ended up getting him thrown in jail, which shouldn't have happened. I think the punishment didn't fit the crime. But the reality is, I don't believe for 1 second, and I will not back down on this, I don't believe for 1 second that there wasn't a history of Brady saying, this is exactly how I like my footballs. I don't care how you get them there. Just get them there.
I've talked to a million football people, and everyone said the story there is about fumbling. The story is they never, ever fumbled in Foxborough for years and years and years. To me, that's the indictment. I mean, that's the smoking gun that look, he got the book thrown at him.
That story didn't get more run when it happened, because to me as well, that was something that stood out. Like, forget how that helps, how it helps Tom Brady, but how does it help his running backs? And that to me was a really underpaid attention to portion of that story. And I think in large part it was because you really didn't have any true hard evidence that they cheated. It is speculation, but I'm sorry. If you call someone a deflator and you get that nickname prior to Deflategate becoming a thing, that to me is enough. That to me is enough.
Well, the Aaron Hernandez thing's wild, and you're speaking to a guy that covered the whole Ray Rice thing here, and it's amazing from the Patriots' perspective how much winning, and even for the Orioles here in Baltimore the last 5 years, winning sort of sanitizes all sins, right? I mean, even if you got a guy that you let run around murdering people, put him back out on the football field. That doesn't matter when you win literally, to that fan base up there, it's like raw meat, right? It's just win and we'll love you.
Yeah, I will say I think the Aaron Hernandez was a little bit different, and only because of how swiftly they handled it. There was no, we're sticking by our guy. Like, the minute he walked out of his house in handcuffs, he was cut from the Patriots. They offered a buyback on all of his jerseys, and they did everything to sort of repair that image, unlike the Ray Rice, Adrian Peterson, Greg Hardy stories, which in fairness, are nowhere near to what could be triple homicide. He, of course, has been accused of murdering 3 people.
But it feels like there's been very little shame cast upon the Patriots from that, in the grand scheme of things.
I think, here I would argue, this is where I would argue, to me, there wouldn't be shame cast upon the Ravens or the Vikings or the Cowboys if you would have drafted someone who got in trouble. The shame comes when you look the other way after it's been revealed what they've done. Because, listen, and we could talk for hours about ways that I feel and a lot of people feel the Patriots should have had a better idea prior to giving him such a big contract extension, what they were getting themselves into. I mean, they've got these guys covered. They have enough people on staff to keep a very close eye on their players. So there's a part of me that wonders, were there warning signs that they chose to look the other way on?
Well, if you could catch 80 balls, they don't care, right? Literally.
Right. Yeah, they don't care. But again, I think the difference comes, and I think the reason the Patriots escaped more criticism following Aaron Hernandez is because they were swift in parting ways with him. Again, it wasn't, well, we're going to stand by him through the trial, and, if he's out on bail, we're going to let him come to practice. When he returns, we're going to give him this triumphant return to a preseason game. There was none of that. It was, you've been accused of murder, you're out. That's it. We're not hanging on to you. We're not showing loyalty to you. That goes above and beyond anything we're willing to put up with. And I think that's fair. To me, that's fair that they didn't get more criticism because, again, we could hire somebody tomorrow and he could seem like a really nice guy and he could do something terrible and we may not know about it. I mean, that's an unfortunate fact of life, right? Like, you don't know everything about everyone. To me, it's how you handle the situation after a crisis arises. And I think the Patriots, to their credit, that's a crisis they handled well.
She is Trenny Kusnierek. You can follow her journey at Trenny on Twitter. I got to hit that guy in L.A. and see if he'll sell me Nestor for $10 or something. He's not even using the Twitter. Yeah, it's some dude in L.A. that squatted on Nestor, but... Well, you're lucky.
Sorry,
I mean, you got it. It's all good. All the other Trennies have to wait in line. Somewhere out there's some Trenny that's upset at you.
They've got to be like Trenny number.
Yeah, their birthday or something like that. She is the host of the early edition 6 to 8 on Comcast Sportsnet New England, and that's CSNE.com, as well as Trenny out on Twitter. Always great to have you on. Keep up the great work with the mental health advocacy. I have a great admiration and respect for what you've put out there. It's not easy being a public figure now, is it, right? For any of us.
No, it's not. But I feel very passionately about it, and if someone wants to criticize me for it, it's not going to keep me from talking about it because it's something we all, many of us deal with, and many families deal with. I don't think there's a family out there that can say they've never experienced, similar to a lot of other diseases.
We'll be checking in on you, and, do me a favor. I do follow you on Twitter. Put a couple of good things up from Spain, your feet in the sand or a beverage on a table, or, what I would like, when you go get some paella, get a nice big picture of the rice,
like
you know what I mean?
Food shot of the paella.
Yeah, paella looks nice from afar. Maybe a little tres leches or some flan or something. By all means, drink and eat a lot, whatever you do.
I will.
Enjoy Mallorca and Barcelona and Madrid and all those other good places. Have a great journey. We'll see you soon.
Thanks, Nestor.
Trenny Kusnierek, she does all things sports up in the Boston area. Poor gal. She's been imported from Milwaukee to cover all those championships and playoff runs up there. Thought the Caps are going to have the Bruins, are going to have the Maple Leafs. I'll be in Toronto next week. And anything you miss, you can find in the Buy a Toyota Audio Vault 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world on your mobile device by downloading the TuneIn Radio app. We do come in crystal clear from anywhere in the world. The morning newspaper ships to your email inbox at 7 a.m. each and every morning. That is powered up by Planet Fitness and PlanetFitness.com, where it's still $10 a month to get in the best shape of your life, so you can go to Spain and have a good time. Last but never least, breaking news happens first on our WNST tech service. That is brought to you by Coons Ford of Security Boulevard. And, of course, Dennis will be here on Thursday from 3 until 5, driving you home. I am a very available individual. Nasty at WNST.net reaches me if you want the discount on the London trip. That is available. We're waiting on Green Bay and Nashville and Indianapolis and out to Oakland. Maybe Vegas, who knows, with the Raiders, but that'll happen next week. All trips will be on sale by then. London on sale now, $100 off. Just email me. I'm on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram, and streaming live on our Facebook as well as our YouTube WNSTV channel. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, and WNST Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports.